Dahlias are one of my favorite flowers to grow, and they're remarkably easy to grow, but there are a few things that make it a little tricky. And they have these tubers that remarkably were cultivated originally for their edible tubers, and they're still, some of them are more delicious than others. But the tubers will, in our climate, rot over the winter with the freeze thaw. So it's really important that we dig them up every year, and that can be a bit of a thing. Pay attention to all the videos that I'll share in the fall about how we store them. But once we take them out of the ground, out of the root cellar for the winter, we start them a month before we plant them out indoors in these bright yellow totes in about 6 inches of slightly moist peat moss, and we let these grow in the greenhouse. You can also let them grow just indoors in a nice sunny spot. And dahlias, when they're moving from their dormant tuber stage to their flowering stage, they're very, very sensitive. And so it's really important that you take them out, and they want to be warm, not cold. They want to be a little moist, but not wet by any means. And they're very sensitive. Once they've established, once they have their lovely leaves coming up, once they have their true roots growing, they're off to the races, and it's pretty hard to kill dahlias. But this few weeks of transition time is really important to take good care of them. So whether you have a bunch and you put them in totes, or whether you just have a couple and you put them in a nice large pot, you want to make sure that you're planting those tubers horizontally and not vertically. And that makes sure that it's warmest at the top of the soil, so that way that you're getting the maximum amount of warmth on the maximum amount of surface area on your tuber. And after a month, you should start to see these little sprouts coming up, and certainly the roots, and you can see they're so fine that all of that soil is covering them, so they look dark instead of white. So this is a perfectly marvelous dahlia tuber to plant. You can see this other one that we planted. It has some roots growing, but no sprout and no even sign of sprouts. There's nothing on that neck that is going to sprout. And so sadly, we certainly could plant this and it would grow lots of gorgeous roots, but it would never send up foliage. So it would never flower. So if you have some, it's very disappointing, but know that we're just going to put this in the compost pile. But it's important when you go to plant out your dahlias that you also plant them horizontally, of course, so that the leaves are upright, and that just makes sure that you have the maximum amount of warmth, getting to the maximum amount of the surface area of your tuber. And I barely plant it, and that also keeps it up in that most warm part of the soil. But I cover it fully with soil, and I tamp it down so there's nice good soil, tuber soil, and root contact. And then from here, I want to be sure that I'm either mulching it really well right away, or we love to plant it in this biotella, which is actually made out of corn and is biodegradable, which is amazing. You can find it on our website online. And so this way, it not only suppresses the weeds, it maintains moisture, and you can feel the soil underneath this black mulch as opposed to the soil just exposed to the air. It's amazing how much warmer the soil is underneath it. So that little additional boost of warmth is so critical to getting the dahlias just off to the races. And you want to plant them outside after the last danger of frost. So it's just before Memorial Day. The 10-day forecast looks dreamy, not a night below 50. So we're going ahead and planting our dahlias out. So there are the few things to keep in mind when planting dahlias, and I can't wait to share more tips as they grow taller and become the full blossoming dahlias that we all know and love.